So I just saw Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom the first time on Netflix, and oh boy, that movie is as bad as people say it is. Um, I don't know what I was expecting because obviously sometimes when you're on the internet, and especially if you're critiquing superhero movies like I do, you come across if you don't get to see a movie immediately, you come across a lot of internet criticism, which is either hyperbolic or you know predisposed to dislike a movie for any number of reasons. So it can be very difficult to tell whether a review is 100% genuine or whether it's just being done as clickbait. I promise this review is not clickbait. I have just seen it 3 years after it came out, and yeah, it's bad. The tone is wildly inconsistent. There are multiple bits of the movie where you can see they have spliced in a reshot scene. Like not in like obviously every movie has scenes shot out of order, scenes put in later. Every single film ever made has that. There is not a single film that I'm aware of that was filmed in sequence without any editing, right? Or any and just as it was scripted, especially for big superhero movies like this where action scenes need to be put in later and all things like that. But this isn't just like, oh, look, that actor's hair is slightly off from the 5 seconds before. This was filmed a bit later. No, this has, you know, there's a fight scene in the middle with the main bad guy where Aquaman is punching him, and then there's a cut, and Aquaman is on the floor, and you don't know why. Like, there was clearly a longer bit in that fight scene, and it's just gone. So the plot involves climate change, like literal climate change, and what that means. Excuse me while I put my PlayStation controller down. What that means is that there's an ancient Atlantean material called orichalcum, which is based on the ancient Greek mythological metal of the same name, and using it. The bad guys using it speeds up climate change more than human-made climate change is already doing. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging climate change in movies. Climate change is a real thing. Acknowledging it in a movie in 2023 should not be controversial, and I don't think it is. But the way it works in this plot is using the orichalcum is melting the ice cap is going to release the main bad guy, kind of ring wraith for Atlanteans. That's also fine. Like on paper, that sentence sounds fine, but first of all, he's possessing the secondary bad guy, and then he dies pretty quickly in the fight scene with Aquaman right at the end. But most importantly of all, for the incongruity of this movie, he requires the blood of the Atlantean bloodline, i.e. Aquaman or his brother or his son, to be broken free. Now what this means is the bad guys have to kidnap the baby, but I am not Aquaman's baby, but I am not 100% sure that was always the intended script, because in the scene in which the bad guy quote unquote kidnaps Arthur's son, baby, they basically have him menace towards the baby and then it cuts away. And then when Aquaman returns home, he finds his house destroyed and his father grievously injured. And the line in which his father says, "Oh, they've taken your baby" or whatever, is I think was done in post, and the other scenes around it heavily imply much greater distress than just the kidnapped baby. Given the state of the house that they emerge onto when the baby has been kidnapped, so I don't believe the baby was always intended to have been kidnapped. I think maybe something more sinister was meant to happen to that baby, and they edited around it when it didn't test well, because it's well known that this film did not test well with audiences, and they reshot it a bunch. So yeah, that's part of the tone being all over the place. The other part is just like the jokes. Like obviously, it's part of the modern superhero blockbuster formula that they are slightly comedic. You have serious stuff, serious action, then light tone to lighten the mood. They've been doing this in movies since at least the year 2000. People call it a Marvel thing, but it's not. The Mummy was like this too. Like it's, but these jokes, they feel like they were put in by someone else. And I noticed that the one of the credited writers of this is Jason Momoa himself, the guy playing Aquaman. So I genuinely feel like this was a botched job of an edit, cut together, including the main actor, to make something that they were happy with, but no one is happy, and it plays really badly. This is a really bad film. So yeah, please subscribe for more like this. Bye.